Do you remember your first day in practice as a physician, the sense of pride, the satisfaction in serving others while you delivered the best treatment options possible, and the joy in knowing you'd enjoy a lifestyle because you were entering a high-paying and respectable profession? You just knew you'd be able to provide the best opportunities for your family and deeply enjoy the rewards and lifestyle of your career. Well, unfortunately, those years are gone due to big insurance, conglomerates, and socialized medicine squeezing the profit and the passion from the profession. For example, Medical Economics reports that the stress and hassles of EHRs alone are contributing to record high numbers of physician burnout in every single specialty. Physicians commit suicide at a much higher rate than the general population, and many doctors are actively making plans to leave the profession. Doctors are caught in a vicious cycle of long hours, third-party payer healthcare, red tape, endless paperwork, and dealing with EMR headaches, fatigue and disillusionment, financial worries, and loss of the mythical work-life balance. Well, if that sounds like you, you're not alone. According to one Mayo Clinic Proceedings study, more than half of U.S. physicians are experiencing burnout, and just 40% reported satisfaction with work-life balance. But fortunately, there is a better way. According to Dr. NICOLE EISENBROWN, #1 best-selling author, physician, surgeon, speaker, and creator of the Burnout to Bliss system for medical practitioners. NICOLE is on a mission to help physicians avoid the psychological aspects of the burnout trap, make more money, have more free time, and eliminate the administrative headaches doctors complain about. That means you can spend more quality time with your patients and your families. And after doing this for herself, she developed a systematic way of eliminating financial stress both in personal and business, increase productivity and revenues, and dramatically reduce personal stress. She wants to help you do the same, so let's meet NICOLE. Well, hi, NICOLE. Nice to have you here.
Oh, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so you've gone through quite a number of career shifts. Why don't you talk a little bit about what happened to you and why you're so qualified to work with doctors and help them get to a point where they're not burned out any longer?
Well, my pathway into medicine is not exactly a straight path. My undergraduate training is actually in business administration and marketing. So I spent the first 6 years of my career in the business world, the last 2 years of which I was a pharmaceutical rep. And one day I was working with one of my physicians in the office, and I had an absolutely life-changing experience. I had the pleasure or the privilege of sitting in the room while my friend told this precious lady that she had lung cancer for the first time. She was absolutely devastated, as you would naturally expect. But I also got to watch how he took her from that place of sheer terror and fear to a place of hope. And in that very minute, I knew I had to go to medical school. Now, I had no idea if that was even possible, how to do it, or what it would take, but I knew I had to try. So I did my research, I found out what it would take, and I crafted my 11-year plan. I quit my very lucrative job, sold my house, moved to Gainesville, Florida, waited tables while I was doing the post-bac work, applied to medical school, got in, and I guess the rest is history, so to speak. I am now entering my 17th year of practice, and I specialize in female urology. I have a very busy, very productive practice, but even with a busy practice, I found myself stuck in this broken healthcare system that just devours doctors. I was so frustrated, I was really wanting to quit, but I thought, I'm not going down without a fight. So I looked at everything in my life and my practice that I found was frustrating, and I researched solutions and I implemented them. So I turned that around, and now I want to help other physicians do the same thing, because I believe that the greatest threat to our healthcare system is actually the loss of our healthcare providers.
There's no question about that. All the stats are supporting that right now. So Here you are, you spent all this time doing everything. You checked all the boxes off, you followed the line, you got to the path, you had this practice, and then basically a form of disaster struck. So how did you get out of disaster, and how bad did it get before you actually turned things around for yourself?
Well, actually, I just learned that the highest risk for physician burnout is a woman practicing urology. 67% of us are burned out, and I was definitely one of those statistics. I was a victim of our healthcare system. I was so frustrated. I was financially underwater. I was emotionally bankrupt. I was just, quite frankly, a mess. But I decided to do some research, figure out what I could do to change those things, and then implement them.
And how bad did things get, just for people to have a relative sense? Because I'm sure there's docs going, okay, sounds familiar, but then what were the numbers?
The numbers. Well, I was $1.5 million in debt. My monthly expenses were over $15,000 a month. Those were just some of my personal things. I went at least 1/3 to 1/4 of the year, all of the last 6 years, without a paycheck. So how I got myself out of that was I decided to look at all the things that I could change. And I started with my own backyard. I thought what I had the most control of was my own finances. And I don't know if you know this, but physicians are not known for their financial savvy. So I had those numbers that I just shared with you. But in 3 years, I eliminated $1.3 million of that debt. And with that, away went about $10,000 of my monthly expenses. I then looked at what was frustrating me at the office, and charting is one of the things that most physicians really get frustrated with. Most physicians spend an average of 10.5 hours per week charting, and I found a way to eliminate about 90% of that time. I then decided I wanted to be happy when I went to work. I wanted to be joyful and take care of the patients that I really enjoyed. So I identified who my ideal patient was, and I figured out what the value of that patient was to my practice, and then I filled my clinic with that.
It's fantastic. So you turned everything around, and in this particular case, it took you 3 years. But now you've turned this into a system, your burnout to bliss system, and you've been helping other docs implement this. And of course, you're doing it in a lot less time. So why don't you talk a little bit about your system?
Okay. Well, I basically take them through 5 steps. The first one is exactly what I did first. We've got to clean up your own house. Most physicians have far more debt than they need, so I help them look at that, be very realistic, and clean that up, because that goes a long way to reducing stress. Then we look at what their frustrations are in their offices. Most people, it's EMR, like it was for me, so I show them how to eliminate those frustrations. And then the next part's really important, but actually a lot of fun. I help them try to identify who their ideal patient is. All of us have things that we like more than others in our practice, so I get down to the question of, if I could do blank all day long, I'd be a happy camper. So what is your blank? So we figure out what that is, and then we look at what the financial value of that patient is. And if you filled your practice with that patient, does it make financial sense? And if it does, I teach them how to do that. Then the other thing that I do is I teach them how to get out from under the insurance trap. There's not a single specialty that I know of that doesn't have some procedures, services, or products that they could add to what they do that would not add a ton to their bottom line. We just have to get out of the concept that we have to accept nothing but insurance, and then pick out the things that you think complement your practice the best. The 5th thing that I do is actually the most important, but physicians won't listen to that first if we haven't done the first 4, and that is actually designing your perfect life and the work-life balance. When physicians are in pain, they don't want to hear about that sort of stuff. We've got to put out the fire first, and then we get their life in order.
Very good. And you've been able to bring this to some physicians. So why don't you tell the story about Danny and Dennis and what you were able to do with them? Well,
Danny was a very similar financial situation to myself. And working with her, we eliminated over $1 million of her debt, which also helped her get rid of a little over $9,000 a month of expenses. Dennis and Maria is another example like Dennis. They were both spending hours after work doing EMR. Maria actually spent 4 hours every Saturday doing EMR. So I taught them how to eliminate the time they spend on that. So now their personal time they spend with their families.
Very good. Now you've also been able to help your advisory clients increase their revenue and add cash pay services, which again, get out of that insurance trap add some more services? What are some of the things you did? I know you've got a Christy Cathy that you've
Yeah,
worked with.
well, Christy's an interesting story. She actually just called me last week before I came here because she was so excited. She'd got her May financials, and one of the things that we implemented in her practice netted her $20,000 to the bottom line in just the month of May. So she was very excited. Kathy is a pediatrician. She's an example of someone who added products to her practice, and just one of the products that she carries netted her over $75,000 last year.
All right. So you've been able to, again, implement this. You've got a system. It's available right now. You can work with docs and get them out of the burnout phase back into their state of bliss. Talk a little bit about your best-selling book that you're giving away, and then how people can get hold of you to learn more about how to work with you.
Well, they can find everything that they need on my website, which is dreisenbrown.com. I'm giving away a free special report that summarizes everything that's in the book, and then they'll get the book when it gets done at the publisher. They also can find a application where if they want to work with me, we can see whether we'd be a perfect fit. I don't work with many people, but if they're interested, we'll take a look.
Fantastic. All right. So the next step is yours to take. You can just head on over to dreisenbrown.com, get a copy of the book, learn more about Dr. Eisenbrown's services and how she can help guide you from the place you are to being able to earn more, have a higher quality lifestyle, and love what you are doing again.